The US and Saudi Arabia have deep ties that go back decades, ties that connect Washington and Riyadh and both countries' economies. The countries are so intertwined economically that Washington is often reluctant to distance itself from Riyadh politically. The current tension over the death of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi is no exception.
Here's a look at some of the glue that's binding the two powers together.
First, Saudi Arabia and the US are connected by oil. The US has doubled production of crude over the past decade and is now considered the world's largest producer, but it still looks to Saudi Arabia for nearly 10% of its petroleum imports. And there's more. Saudi Arabia holds the power to quickly influence global oil prices. Some call it the central bank of oil. That's because in Saudi Arabia, the state controls oil production, which allows for a more streamlined operation than in countries like the US, where hundreds of private companies work independently across numerous states.
The kingdom has the power to turn the flow up and down quickly, impacting gas prices, inflation, and global growth.
Saudi financiers have also forged close relationships with American companies, especially in tech and finance. That's because Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has set the ambitious goal of making Saudi Arabia a major investment hub in an effort to diversify the country's economy beyond oil. Using the country's public investment fund, the Saudis have directly invested $3.5 billion in Uber, which gave PIF's chief a seat on the company's board, taken a roughly 5% stake in Tesla, which fueled speculation that it could take over the company someday, and committed $45 billion to a tech fund managed by SoftBank, a Japanese firm that's investing heavily in US startups like WeWork. Since 2016, the kingdom has become the biggest single source of funding for US startups. Ties are also growing stronger with Wall Street. PIF committed up to $20 billion for an infrastructure fund managed by Blackstone. And BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, has met with the Crown Prince about possible investment partnerships and is planning to open an office in Saudi Arabia.
However, there's one caveat. Some of Saudi Arabia's ambitious business plans have been put on hold due to the stalled IPO of Saudi Aramco, the country's massive state-owned oil company.
Then there are the arms and defense deals. For decades, the US has provided military support for Saudi Arabia, and the kingdom has purchased tens of billions of dollars of weapons and defense systems from the United States.
The US defense industry is so entrenched in Saudi Arabia that some American companies are establishing joint ventures to make and repair equipment in Saudi Arabia.
In 2017, the US and Saudi Arabia announced an arms deal they said could eventually be worth $110 billion.
That's peanuts for you. Should have increased it.
These contracts, some of which have yet to be approved, would benefit a handful of US companies.
Lockheed Martin said in a statement that it amassed $28 billion in potential new business from Saudi Arabia, including the planned sale of combat ships and helicopters that would be assembled at a new plant in Saudi Arabia, creating 450 jobs there. It also struck a deal to sell its THAAD missile defense system to the kingdom. Raytheon said it was setting up a new Saudi-based defense arm encompassing munitions and cybersecurity, and Boeing was approved to sell Saudi Arabia $7 billion in Chinook and Apache helicopters, and it announced a joint venture in March that would create 6,000 Saudi jobs. Boeing has said its share of the planned deals could be worth as much as $50 billion. Trump has made it clear he does not want to jeopardize deals like these, even in light of political controversies.
If we don't sell it to them, they'll say, well, thank you very much, we'll buy it from Russia, or thank you very much, we'll buy it from China. So what good does that do us? There are other things we can do.
Some US business leaders have distanced themselves from the kingdom after Khashoggi's disappearance by pulling out of the Saudi conference dubbed Davos in the Desert. But the country's economic ties run deep, and the alliance has proven to be a resilient one.